Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim, Siman Dalid 4, Dinei Netilat Yadayim, the laws of washing our hands in the morning, basically. Ubo Kaf Gimel Seifim, and there's 23 paragraphs. Aleph, Yirchatz Yadav Vivarech Al Netilat Yadayim. We wash our hands and we say the beracha al netilat yadayim. Asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. Hagad Rama v'yesh omrim gam asher yatzar. And you should also say asher yatzar v'afilu lo asat tzirachav, even if a person did not use the restroom. V'chein nahagu, and this is how we have a minhag from the Abu Draham. And of course, the Rama is bringing for the Ashkenazim. Even if they don't say Asher, if they don't go to the restroom, they would still say Asher Yatzar. Sephardim do not. That's why it's better to go to the bathroom upon waking up so that you can say Asher Yatzar as part of the Birchot HaShachar. Now, the reason for saying Asher Yatzar, even if you did not use the restroom, is because the rabbi says, because you're a new creature. B'riyah chadasha, you're newly made. That's why Asher yatzar et adam, like Hashem formed us and made us. So we're like a newly creature that woke up. So it has that aspect in it. Now, as far as what we do in the morning, this is saying the Rav Yosef Karo said, say al netilat yadayim. Now, it fits well with how the Rama is saying, and then Asher Yatzar, even if you didn't have to go to the restroom, because that's when you would say the Beracha al Netilat Yadayim, because you didn't have to use the restroom. As opposed to the other way, if a person does have to use the restroom, he should not be saying a Beracha of al Netilat Yadayim yet. What he should do is he should wash his hands 3 times, we'll see that soon, without a Beracha, even right by his bed. And, or if he has to just go to the sink, again, if you want to be machmir, it is a good idea really to do it by the bed, they say, even in these days. And because the tum'ah is great. And then you would go to the restroom, and then you would wash again, and then say al netilat yadayim, and then say asher yatzar, and the rest of Birchot HaShachar. So that's really what we do, because we do have to use the restroom usually upon waking up. Now the halacha continues. Ma'im hapisulim lenetilat yadayim leseuda. Those waters which is not kosher to use for eating bread, that we're going to see lekaman over there, Siman Kuf Samach in 160. Kesherim lenetilat yadayim letfila. Then you can use those waters for netilat yadayim of the morning, which is for prayer. It's all about getting ready for prayer and getting ready to speak to your Creator, is what the netilat yadayim of the morning is about. As opposed to food. Food is really, you need water. You have to have water on your hands in order to eat food, because to cleanse them. Now, real water means real water. So if it's smelly water, it's not considered water anymore. If it's colored water, it's not considered water anymore. And if it's water that was used by someone doing something with it, then it's also called, it's not, doesn't have the property of water anymore because it was used for something else. As opposed to, that's why you can't use it for seudah. As opposed to all those you can use for netilat yadayim of the morning, because you don't necessarily need, quote, water. You just need something to clean your hands. Kol davar de manke, like it says in the Gemara. Anything that makes clean your hands. Like we say, erchatz benikayon kapai. I will wash with something that's a cleaner my hands. Benikayon, anything that's make clean. But it says, mihu, however, yesh mi sheomer delo mevarech alayhu. You shouldn't make a beracha on it. Now the Mishnah Berurah, which is again for the Ashkenazim for the most part, he wants to say that you would say Not al nitilat yadayim, but al nikiyut yadayim. But the Kaf HaChaim for the Sephardim, he sees that this sentence, when it says de lo mevarech alayhu, he means at all. You shouldn't say any beracha. So that's how the Sephardim do hold. Seif bet 2. Yidakdek le'arot alehem maim. You should make sure to pour over your hands water, gimel pamim, 3 times. Lahavir ruach ra'ah, in order to take away the evil spirit, sheshora lehem, which is on them. Now, this means 3 times means consecutively, first starting with the right. Actually, you take with your right hand, you take the cup, you give it over to the left, because we want to start mitzvot with the right hand, like putting on our right shoe. So you want to take it with the right hand, and then the left hand will take it and start pouring on the right. So the right hand will get first, then the left, and this is what it means 3 times consecutive. As opposed to a meal, you do the right hand 1, 2, 3, and then the left hand 1, 2, 3. So this is a stronger way of doing netilah, and it takes away the evil spirit. When a person sleeps, and sleep is a 60th of death, so the body was like dead, so to speak, and the neshama left, and tum'ah entered, because there's no vacuum in the world. It's either holiness is there, or the tum'ah, the sitra achra, goes in. Now, when we wake up, we push out the evil spirit, because our neshama is back in. The only thing is, the hands, it did not push it out. It's still the tumah on the hands. That's why we have to do a ritual washing in the morning. And the rabbis, because of this, and because we're also we're preparing ourselves to pray to our Creator, and washing is also a sense of cleanliness as far as getting ready to serve Hashem. That's why they instituted a beracha of al netilat yadayim. Not just because of the ruach ra'ah, but because of the whole package together. And of course, a person shouldn't touch anything, especially his mouth, his face, anything with the hands unwashed. That's why we said whether you're going to make a beracha or not, because you might have to use the restroom, right upon awakening, you should be already having your hands washed, whether it's right next to the bed, or if you just walk a little bit to a sink that might be next to you, or something like that. But to go more than 4 amot, 6 feet, the rabbis are against it, because already you're carrying that ruach, that spirit, with you wherever you go. And if you start touching things, it's going to land on it and stay on it now for the day. Food, you want to make sure not to touch things like that. And even children, while maybe they technically don't have to, but it's always good to try to, even after, by chinuch age even some want to do it before, but again, it's not so vital. But as much as you can do, it's good to do even with the children. And the washing should be the whole hand until the wrist, and you should leave your hand opened and even move it like back and forth in order that it gets all over. Not just on the one side of it. You have to be moving it while you're pouring so that it gets all over. Now, if you don't have enough water, like in the olden days, maybe they didn't have, we don't running sinks like we do. You would do like Yom Kippur is good enough, up to the knuckles, the middle of the hand, where the knuckles are in the middle there, after the fingers, like we do on Kippur. So if a person is in a situation, maybe today, where he doesn't have enough water, he can do that if he has to. 3 times, of course. Now, there are rabbis that they said that they saw, or they can see, a spirit jumping off of their hands after they poured it on the 3rd time. So it's a real thing. There's something on it, and it goes away after the 3rd washing. And anything you touch with that being on your hand, it's going to also go to it, and go to this, and then make bad luck on it, or whatever it is. That's why it's very important to do this netilat yadayim in the beginning of the day, and then you just get rid of it for the whole day. Now the next seif says this, seif 3. Lo yigab beyado, you shouldn't touch with your hand, kodem netilah, before you wash, lepeh, your mouth, velo lechotem, not your nose, velo leoznaim, not your ears, velo le'inaim, and not your eyes. All these are the openings. Openings means if you touch it, the Ruach Ra'ah can kind of enter and be in your body and cause damage somewhere along the line in your life. Doesn't mean right at that moment. And also Kabbalistically, they say that these openings have to do with how Hashem made the world and made us. Like it says, the achaf, oznaim, chotem, and peh, and of course the einaim also. And these correspond to the four worlds. Like we say, Atzilut is the eyes, even though it's down below, but that's another story. Atzilut is the eyes. And the next one is the ears, which is Biri'ah. And then the nose, which is Yitzirah. And the mouth, which is Asiyah. So anyway, just to see, we have to be careful touching even the eyelids, not just the eye, but the eyelids, and the truth, even any part of the body at the end, like we said, and even the food and everything, we should make sure not to touch. Seif Dalid 4, Afilu Mishenatal Yadav, even someone who did wash his hands, Lo Yimashmesh Befi Hataba'at Tamid. A person still should not constantly touch the pitaba'at, again where he relieves himself in the back. Mipnei shemeviato lidei tachtoniot. It could lead to hemorrhoids, which is a painful condition. Velo yiga b'makom hakaza. You shouldn't touch the place that a person gave blood. When they bloodlet, you shouldn't touch that place also. Shemishmush hayad, if you do touch, mazik lechabura, it could cause already that wound to be even damaged even more. Now, some say, it's really brought in different places about that we shouldn't touch the pi hataba'at. Certainly when you didn't wash your hands yet, you shouldn't touch it at all, because again, it could make a harmful situation there. And if you did wash your hands, you certainly shouldn't touch it regularly. That's what we're saying, tamid. Seif 5. Lo yiga begigit shechar. A person should not touch a barrel of beer. Shechar is beer. Shemishmush hayad, because by touching it, mafsid ha-shechar, it ruins or spoils the beer. Meaning, you can carry the barrel, but it means don't put your hand in the barrel, which means you're touching the beer itself. It'll ruin the beer. And this is, again, even if a person did nitilat yadayim, and certainly if he didn't, he shouldn't. Now the rabbis say, what if someone did touch something? Do you have to throw it away? So if you can wash it like a fruit, wash it 3 times, like you would your hands, so you can thereby take the Ruach Ra'ah off of it. Otherwise, it seems from some poskim say that from the letter of the law, you can still eat it, not to waste food. And some say it's better not to. A God-fearing person, unless it's a great loss, it's better to throw it out, they explain. Now, the reason the beer putting your hand in is asur is because you're going to ruin the beer, and then it's going to be wasting food. We're not allowed to waste food because of bal tashchit. Seif Vav, En tzarich revi'it lintilat yadayim letfilah. You don't need a revi'it, which is about 3.2 or 3.5 ounces. There's all different opinions for this nitilat yadayim of prayer, meaning as opposed to eating bread, which we're going to compare it in the next halacha. So for the morning washing, meaning you don't need to have a revi'it. Now again, the Chavetz Chaim explains this is b'diavad. B'diavad, you can still wash with the beracha if you don't have the amount, revi'it, but it's better to, you should, l'chatechila. And the Kaf HaChaim says, not better, he says, do not make a beracha if you don't have a revi'it, which means already there's no beracha if you don't have a revi'it. So it means you can still wash. it's still b'diavad saying, but you don't say the beracha. Seif Zayin 7. Tov להקפיד בנטילת ידיים שחרית בכל הדברים המעכבים בנטילת ידיים לסעודה. It's good to be particular, stringent, in the nitilat yadayim of the morning with all the things that would be essential in the nitilat yadayim of a meal. So like we said, there's two types. And the one of the meal is more stricter. But it's better to be that strict with the morning washing as well. And let's just see what the Rama says to add on this. Haga mihu eno me'akev lo keli velo koach gabra. It's not essential, meaning that it would invalidate it, if you don't have a kli, a vessel, or a power of a man, meaning a man has to be the one to move the vessel and pour the water on you, as opposed to the sink, just it coming out, that's not good enough. But he's saying, for seudah, it's not good enough. But here, the rabbi is saying that for shachrit, nitilat yadayim in the morning, if you didn't have a cup, a kli, which means even a kli, if it was broken or has a hole in it, that's considered not a kli. So even that would be okay. This again, b'diavad. And koach gavra, if it's coming just from the faucet. Sometimes you see people, they do it from the faucet. We're really not supposed to. This is only if you have to, if there's no kli, and certainly not for bread. For bread, you're not allowed even. It won't work. And you also have the idea of beracha or not. Just like the last halacha, the Chafetz Chaim says here, if you do this without these things, then you can still say a beracha, but the Chafetz Chaim continues to say again, no cup, and if it's from the faucet, it's not from a man, still you don't say a beracha. So look how important it is. If you're going to wash under the sink, you don't even say a beracha, which is showing it's really not the right way. So people should get a cup and do it the right way in the morning. In the olden days, maybe they didn't have a cup or they had to go find the water. It's different. Today, everyone finds, God willing, a sink and can find a cup. There's no excuses today. And it says, Ushar divarim haposlim bintilat seudah. Also, other things that would make it not good, posel, the netilav seudah, also maybe you can get away with in this one. So what does it mean, other things? So we talked about it, like if it's less than a revi'it. So a cup and the koach gavra and a revi'it, these are things that are essential to bread washing. But again, if you can get away with it, beracha or not beracha, for the nitzilat yadayim of shachrit, is what the rest is all about. Now, the rabbis bring the Chafetz Chaim also, while there's a heter here, there's no heter, let's say, for if someone has a bowl of water and he just sticks his hand in, that's no good by everybody. At least the faucet is being poured on you. You have to at least have that. You can't just stick your hand in water. It won't take off any tumah or anything like that. Now, the reason it's also stringent that we want to say to be like the one of the seudah, which has to do with tahara, and this one just has to do with the ruach tum'ah, is because, again, like mefarshim, or poskim, like the Rashba, that he says it's not necessarily only because of ruach ra'ah, it's also because you're getting up in the morning, you're going to serve your king and your creator. So there is an aspect of, again, preparing yourself for the morning. So that's why we want to be also a little bit more particular and do it like we would do the meal washing. And it says, you can look up here, the Mordechai, Resh Perek Elu Devarim, the beginning of Perek Elu Devarim, which is Masechet Berachot, the things between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, which is the 8th Perek, Teshuvat Rashba, the Teshuvat Rashba, Siman, Kuf Tzadik Aleph 191, if you want to look up over there. Seif Het 8, Nitilat Yadayim Shachrit, En Notlin Al Gabe Karka, Ela Letoch Kili. when we wash our hands in the morning, we shouldn't do it and let the waters fall on the ground, but it should fall in a vessel. Now again, these waters are taking off the ruach tum'ah, the evil spirit that's on our hands. So then it's going to go in the water, because the water's taking it off, and the water then becomes something of tum'ah. So you don't want it where people are walking on the floor. Even if the floor has wood on it, or our floors that are paved, or whatever it is. Doesn't mean just the earth floor, anywhere on the floor, because people are going to walk. But it should be in a vessel, and then you're going to throw it out somewhere, because we want to make sure. Now, the next seif, it talks more about it. Maim shel nitilat yadayim shachrit. Again, this water, asur lehanot mehem, forbidden to have pleasure from them. Meaning, don't use it. It's bad water. What do you want it for? Don't water your plants or do things, or give it to your animal. It's bad water. We're not supposed to want to do good things with something that has tumah on it. And besides, who knows what it'll do to your plant and what it'll do to your animal. Velo yishfechem, and don't pour them babayit. Again, don't pour them somewhere in the house where people are going to be and get exposed to it. Velo b'makom she'ovrim sham b'nei adam, and not where people are going to walk by and pass by. Which again could mean the floor, or just on places, on the counter or something, and somebody might touch it or use it. Certainly not drink it, imagine. So you want to be careful. These are waters. It could be harmful. It could be dangerous. We don't know what's going to happen. So a person should, again, today, Baruch Hashem, we have the drains. That's usually where the waters go. But we have to still be careful. Sometimes we still recommend that we wash by our bed if you're far away from the sink. So already you're not going right to the drain. So you have to be careful what you do with that little bucket that you have next to your bed now before you get it to the drain. And so maybe you leave it by mistake, and then your kids come in, somebody can touch it. So you do have to be careful. And just to throw in now, Ma'im Acharonim, which is after the Seudah, we also say, because you're by the table, you're not washing by the sink. So you have to know what to do with it. It also has harmful effects. You have to, some people throw it in the restroom, or it could be, again, down the drain. But it shouldn't be on dishes. If you have dishes in the sink, don't let it hit the dishes. Take the dishes out, and then you can wash. This really goes, even though they're not saying it now, for any nitilat yadayim, because you don't want the tumah, again, to go right over all the dishes. So always try and wash in a place that's empty of anything. Seif 10. Notel keli shel mayim biyad yemino. A person should take the vessel with his right hand. Grab it with your right hand. V'notno, and give it liyad semolo, to your left hand. Kedei sheyarik mayim al yemino techila. So then your left hand will now wash your right hand first. Sheyarik is like we say to pour, like it says in Shir HaShirim, Shemen turak shemecha. Oil poured is your name, Hashem, without getting into what that means. So you see, like we had in Begadim, clothing, we want to put the right arm in and the right shoe first, because we want to give power to the chesed, which is the right, over the din, which is the left. But besides washing with the right hand first, the point is, even with the shirt, if you remember, you should grab your shirt with the right hand. And then somehow, you get it into the right. Because that's how the first act you're doing is by grabbing it with the right hand. So even the kli, it's not enough to wash your right hand first, but your right hand has to grab the cup first also. And then it gives it to the left, and then the left will wash the right. So you have to have it in that system. And this shows that we're wired in Shamayim. It means it actually matters if we do this. It does bring out chesed if I use my chesed right hand in a certain way. So you see, everything is that we're wired to heaven, and whatever we do, every move we make something happen. This should give us some yirat shamayim, and some awareness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now also, if a person's a lefty, he would still do it the same way. This way is for everybody. And now we get to the next seif, 11. Lo yitol mimi shelo natal yadav shachrit. A person should not wash or be washed from someone that did not wash himself for shachrit. Meaning, if somebody's going to pour the water over you and help you, if he didn't do his nitilah yet, then it's going to be no good, because whatever he's touching is no good. It's still going to have tum'ah. So we don't want him to do that. And also the pasuk says, "V'hizah hatahor al hatameh." The pure guy should pour over the tameh guy. You don't want to have the tameh guy do it. Now he can bring you the water. We're just talking about pouring it on you as the nitilah. But to bring it to you and say, here's some water, he can do that. And also this does not apply to seudah, washing for bread. If, again, somebody wants to help you and to wash for you, maybe so, like on the Seder night, sometimes we're like 3 people and they do the washing for us at the table. So someone who didn't wash for his bread yet doesn't mean anything. He can wash for you because there's no matter of tum'ah here. This we're talking about the guy woke up and he didn't get the tum'ah off of him yet. So he shouldn't wash for you. But if everyone's just eating and he didn't do his hamotzi washing, so he can wash for other people. Seif Yud Bet. Im shechshech yadav letoch keli shel mayim. If a person dips his hand into a vessel that has water, alta lo nitilah l'kirat shema or l'tfilah. It works for him for kirat shema and tefillah. Aval lo leruach ra'ah shalehem. But it does not work for the evil spirit that's on him. Im shechshech yadav b'shalosh mimot mechulafim. And if he also puts his hand, dabbles his hand in a vessel, and he does it 3 times, but he changes the water each time. Yesh lehistapek. It's now a doubt. Im alta lo, if it works for him. La'avir ruach ra'ah shalehem, for the ruach ra'ah. So again, this is a case about not pouring the water over you, but sticking your hand in the vessel. And even if it's switched water, different water each time, you're still putting your hand in the vessel. Now let's see the logic of all what's happening here. First of all, just to know, if you do these ways, that it doesn't take off the ruach ra'ah, but it helps for tefillah. Again, the Mishnah Berurah says you can say the beracha al nitlat yadayim because it's still doing something, and the Kaf HaChaim says again not to make a beracha unless you're doing the real washing that takes everything off. Now this is already showing that the morning washing is not just for the ruach ra'ah. It's already saying it's for tefillah, like we said, like the Kohen gets up and he washes, the Rashba said, and we had the Rosh that said it's for cleanliness. Maybe literally your hands are dirty and you just have to clean them. And that's why it works for Shema and Amidah, because it's not only for the Ruach Ra'ah. So you see, but to do all of it, you need it to be 3 times back and forth from the keli itself being poured on. Now, the Chavetz Chaim in Mishnah Berurah, he brings a few examples of, let's say you want to put your hand in the river because it's moving, and in the snow in different places, or in a mikveh. So he says some people like the Pri Megadim doesn't allow it, the mikveh maybe, but the other 2 not. But he said other sources say that it's mutar. It'll help for that. And the logic is because the river again is moving, and the snow, if you put your hand in different places of it, of course you still won't say the beracha. Now, the mikveh is even better than those because even if it's under 40 se'ah and it's good for kelim, like a small mikveh, as long as it is good for kelim, it should be good for our hands. Now, the logic is really like this. If you put your hand in a bowl, now you made the water tameh in there because your hands are tameh. Now you'll never be able to put your hand in there a second time. That's what's wrong. Now, so that's why it says, what if you get new water and you put your hand still in the vessel? That's why there's a safek, because you're getting out of the idea that you made the water tameh. But now we still don't know, even the Shulchan Aruch wasn't sure, if you really need poured water or you just need clean water. So that's why it does remain a safek. And the mikveh, since it's going to clean your hand, at least for tahara, you can stick your hand in there. And it, again, will work for the, again, Kirat Shema and Tefillah, as far as being tahor. It's like a moving water where you did it 3 times in a different spot. That's the point of it. But we need regular washing like we do. Seif Yud Gimel. Im haya ne'or kol halala, if a person's up all night, yesh listapek, again it's a safek, we don't know. Im tzarich litol yadav shachrit litpalel ula'avir roch ra'a mi'adav. We don't know if he still has to wash for the shachrit and for the ruach ra'ah. So it's a safek again. And the Rama says, v'yitzelem, you should wash below beracha, without a beracha. And see the Rosh, Klal Daled v'Rashba, Sif Kuf Tzadik Aleph 191. Now, if a person sleeps and the night passes, which means you sleep at night, that's when we know for sure the Ruach Ra'ah came on the person. What's the safek is, if you sleep at all, like even during the day, and if the night passes, so is each one, does it bring a Ruach Ra'ah or not? So since we don't know, we don't wash our hands in either case, which means if you sleep during the day, we don't know if Ruach Ra'ah came. So we wash 3 times without a beracha, even during the day, if you sleep like over a half an hour. And same thing, if the night passes but you did not sleep, which is this case, we're also not sure. Did that bring the Ruach Ra'ah or you need sleep? So since we don't know, again, we wash without a beracha. And the Mishnah Berurah again says, if a person uses the restroom after he was up all night, like on Shavuot, and right when he's ready to wash his hands, because it's the morning, he goes to the restroom, in that case, he should say Al Nitilat Yadayim like regular. And that's because he dirtied his hands already in the restroom, and he's like a new creature of the morning that Rashba talked about. And even if he's not a new creature in this case because he was up all night, still the rabbis, maybe they just said wash your hands anyway, which means still, according to all the opinions, it still can be okay. And that's how he rules. Now the Kaf HaChaim says still not to. Still, if you're up all night and you use the restroom, still don't say Al Nitilat Yadayim, just wash without the beracha. And rabbis explain because the Rama, he didn't mention all this. He just said wash without a beracha. He would have said more to it if it was about using the restroom or not, which is common. Seif 14. Hishkim kodem amud hashachar. If a person gets up before the dawn, v'natal yadav, and he washes his hands, yesh listapek im tzarich litol yadav pam acheret. Now it's again a safek if you have to wash your hands again. Kesheyeor hayom la'avir ruach ra'ah shoreh al hayadayim. When the day comes in, meaning when the dawn comes in, now it's a safek if you have to rewash in order to remove the ruach ra'ah. Now the halacha here doesn't mention about shachrit, meaning his first washing took care of his need to wash for shachrit and to serve his creator. That's why it's not mentioned. Because again, he woke up, he slept at night, he woke up, it's just a little bit before dawn. So he washed, he said Al Nitilat Yadayim, so he's good to go. The only thing is, it's still night. It didn't get to dawn yet, so maybe the Ruach Ra'ah, it'll come back on his hands by the time dawn comes. So that's why it's a safek. So he should wash, like it says in the Rama, v'itelem belo beracha. Again, wash at dawn time without a beracha. Now, let's say of course, when is Amud HaShachar? There's different opinions, but let's just say 72 minutes before sunrise. Now, people at least Silichot time, we get up very early. It's not even dawn yet. Dawn comes in the middle of the Silichot. So what does that mean? Everyone should get up and go wash? We don't see that happen. So it's true. You don't have to do that. The only thing is, we really should wash maybe afterwards. Afterwards, when we're getting ready now for Shachrit, we should go to the sinks and rewash without a beracha, since Amud HaShachar now came and we didn't wash at that moment, meaning, even though we washed before. Now, once you're washing a second time, you don't say a beracha, al nitilat yadayim, that second time, but you would in the first case, meaning if you woke up in the middle of the night, it has to be after halachic midnight. If it's anywhere after halachic midnight, then you would say al nitilat yadayim, and then when you wash in the morning, when the dawn comes, whether you reslept or not, so then again you would wash without a beracha. And it's actually again a safek. Let's say you woke up in the middle of the night and you washed and you forgot to say al nitilat yadayim. So now you'd figure I'll say it in the morning, but it's not so simple. Once you're up and you're a new creature, even though you might re-sleep, you're not a new creature twice in a day, according to the Rashba, and it brings already some safek into that. So the Chafetz Chaim suggests if you can use the restroom, and then you can say your al nitilat yadayim, like he said before, because then your hands are dirty, according to the Rosh, and different things. So if that happens, that is the best way to handle it, which we would anyway. If we're waking up again in the morning, usually you have to go to the restroom again. 15, Tetvav. Yashen bayom, if a person sleeps during the day, yesh listapek im tzarich le'arot mayim alehen gimel pa'amim. It's again a safek, we're not clear if he has to wash with the 3 times like you do in the morning, if he slept during the day. V'yitlem belo beracha, so you should do it without a beracha. Now this we talked about before. We're not sure if sleep brings the evil spirit or if nighttime brings it. So it's only when you do both, meaning you sleep during the night, that you would say the beracha, at least, al nitilat yadayim. But here, since we don't know, you're only sleeping during the day, and you didn't have anything to do with nighttime, so it's again a safek. So you should wash your hands without a beracha, and this is only if you slept a real sleep, which is considered about a half an hour, according to the given opinion of the Acharonim today. There are opinions that it's even up to 3 hours and even a few minutes, but those are just different opinions. We go by a half-hour rule, so to speak, about what's considered sleep. We'll see in the next one what that means. Now, less than a half an hour, there's no ruach ra'ah, so you don't have to do anything. And even at night, the same thing. If you just dozed off for 20 minutes in the nighttime, you also technically don't even have to put water on your hands. Just if you're on the couch or on the bed, just jump up and still go do what you want to do. Now the next seif, 16, David haya nizhar, David HaMelech, he was careful, shelo lishon shitin nishmin, perush shishim nishimot. He wouldn't sleep 60 breaths. Kedei shelo yitom ta'am mita, because this way he didn't taste death. Now, David was a special man in a special case. He was doing a tikkun of Adam Arishon. The word Adam can stand for Aleph for Adam, Dalet for David, and Mem for Mashiach. David really came back. He was Adam, and he came back. That's why he gave himself 70 years. It says Adam gave David 70 years of his life, because he needed it to fix what he did wrong himself. So he brought death to the world, Adam. So David, he took it upon himself to not let death overcome him or sleep, because sleep is the 60th of death. This way it's like he fights sleep and he fights death. Since he brought it in, he's going to try and take it out. And he did. He weakened the Yetzer Hara in general because of what he did. This is not for everyone to take on. It's mainly something he did because of who he was. Of course, Tzaddikim might want to play with this a little bit. If you sleep under a half an hour, then you don't taste death. Death only comes upon you, meaning the 60th of death, after you've slept about a half an hour in that way. So you can snooze, like a snooze button, 28 minutes, snooze button, and go back to sleep, another 28 minutes, and do this all night. And this would be considered you didn't taste death, because you can do more times. It's just in every sleep, it shouldn't be 30 minutes or so if a person is doing this. Now again, this is not for people to really try and do. It's just something to see what David HaMelech did. And now the Rama says, Uba Gemara, Perek HaYashen, which is in Sukkah, the second Perek, Mashma de Davka Bayom Hayan is hard, that only really it looks like David was careful in the day not to sleep that much. But the rabbis disagree with this. They say really it was talking about the Amoraim in the page of the Gemara, that they did it in the day, but not David HaMelech. But the main way that people explain is David, his whole life, even night and day, he would sleep this way, under Shitin Nishmin, of course, whatever that is. Now the next Seif, Yud Zayin 17, Yesh nohagin lirchotz pihem shachrit. Some have the custom to wash their mouth out, mepnei haririn shebetoch hapeh, because of the mucus that's in the mouth. Meaning it's a good idea to do that. Of course, to wet the top of the mouth, the lips, is part of the face. But to actually now put water in the mouth and spit it out, it helps take away anything that might be in the mouth. And why do we want to do this? Because we're going to pray and say Hashem's name. We want to say Hashem's name betahara, with purity, not with stuff in there, or a dirty mouth, so to speak. But if a person didn't rinse his mouth inside, it certainly doesn't me'akev, it doesn't stop him from praying or saying Hashem's name, just like on Kippur. We don't allow that, and we still pray. So again, this is just something brought down. It's another method of cleanliness. And now the next Seif, number 18. Elu debarim tzrichim nitila. These things need washing b'mayim, with water. And it's going to be a whole list of things. Many of them for different reasons and different ways of washing, which we'll see. Hakam hamita, someone who gets out of bed from sleep, that has a big ruach ruach ra'ah. So that's why you have to wash the regular way 3 times, and with the cup, with the keli. Vayotze mebet hakiseh, someone who leaves the bathroom. Now this could mean whether he did his thing in the bathroom, then he should also wash with the keli 3 times. If he doesn't have a keli, he could actually wash just under the sink 3 times. But it's still always better to use a keli because there's still ruach ra'ah there. And if you just walk into the bathroom, then, including our clean bathrooms today, it's still considered a bathroom that has ruach ra'ah in there. So you can just wash 1 time under the sink, 1 time each hand. Of course, 3 times and a keli, if you ever want to be machmir and do it, it's always better. Umebet hamerchatz, and from the bathhouse, where there's just showers, like a shower if you go somewhere, there's saunas and showers. If you just walked into a shower, since it's also a place of uncleanliness and people undress and things like that, like a mikveh, so you also would have to wash, like the bet hakiseh. Some say, again, if you can do it just 1 time, but it's better 3 times. Vanotel tzipornav, someone who cuts their nails, fingernails, toenails, also haircuts. I don't think haircut is in this list, But that also, meaning taking off parts of your body, like the nails and the hair. Also, if you just wash one time, even under the sink is all right, but it's still better with the keli, once with the keli, and even better 3 times with the keli, but you don't even have to be that machmir. One time with the keli is more what people seem to do. If there's no keli, of course, you can just run your hands under the water. V'choletz min alav, someone who takes off his shoes or touches his shoes. If you take off your shoes without touching them, this does not apply. And putting on your shoes, basically touching your shoes, you should also wash. V'nogea beraglav, and if you touch your feet, also a one-time washing, but still preferably to do more stringent if you can and if you want to. V'chofef rosho, if you scratch your head, also you should wash in this way. The only stringent one is really getting out of bed in the morning, because that has the real ruach ra'ah, and using the restroom became also like a minhag like that. But the rest of the things, you're going to find that if you want to just do one, it seems to be okay. V'yesh omrim, af haolech ben hametim, even someone who goes between the deceased people, like in a cemetery. Now, even though this is not getting up in the morning, again, we're a little bit machmir on this one, and we do 3 times with the keli. Of course, if there's no keli, you can run it under the sink, but still 3 times, because you're dealing with the dead, and there's also a ruach ra'ah involved. Umi shenaga bemet, someone who also touches a dead body. He's tameh, and there's a ruach ra'ah, so he has to also do the 3 times. And usually we say, there's a minhag, when you're leaving the cemetery, we have a minhag to wash our hands the 3 times before we go home. The Mishnah Berurah says that. It doesn't give really a reason, but that is what we notice even in our communities. That's what we do. Before you go home, when you're leaving the cemetery, you're supposed to wash your hand 3 times before you go home. Umi shemafli kelav, someone who checks his clothing. Kelav is his utensils, but it means his clothing. Checking it for lice. Now, whether you found a louse or not, it doesn't matter. Just checking, you might have hit one. It might be in the pockets, in the olden days more especially. Today we're more clean, but still, if we're checking a person's hair for lice, then whether you found one or not, you should also wash. V'amshamesh mitato, and someone who used his bed, which means he was with his wife. Now this could be a little bit more stringent too, because it's already with tum'ah involved, because the person, when he's done, he's tameh, and you have to go to the mikveh. So this is also, it became the minhag to do 3 times, 3 times even with the keli. Of course, if you can't, all that comes into play. But again, this is a more stricter one. Vanogea bikina, if you actually touch lice, because it's different from other bugs. If you touch a fly, it doesn't cause to wash. But lice happens to be, they're dirtier, they come from sweat and things like that. So by even touching one, you would have to wash. Vanogea begufo beyado, if you touch your body with your hand, parts of your body that's covered and they're sweaty, like your underarms. And we said scratching your head is also things that are not really revealed. You would have to wash. Again, even 1 time for that is enough. Umish asa achat mikol elu, someone who did one of these things, velo natal, and he didn't wash. Im talmiz chachamhu, if he's a scholar, Torah scholar, talmudo mishtakach, his learning will be forgotten. Look at these strong words from Shulchan Aruch. That's why washing the hands is very important. He could end up losing his learning. V'im einot talmid chacham, if he's not a Torah scholar, yotze midato, he could go out, yotze midato, of his mind, meaning go out of his mind and lose his mind, whatever that means really. They say a person doesn't sin unless he lost his mind. So because this ruach ra'ah is on you, it's going to affect you. And now you're going to have ruach shetut, which means going out of your mind. And a person may sin because of that. Like it says, a person doesn't sin unless this ruach shetut, this spirit of nonsense, got into him, which is again the Yetzer Hara and things coming from the ruach ra'ah. So we do want to wash. And the Chafetz Chaim stresses that even if you're not praying where you would have to wash before you pray, you certainly don't want to just stand around and not wash, because you don't want that ruach ra'ah on you. So whenever you have a time of one of these examples that you have to wash, whether you're going to do any Torah or mitzvot or not, you should wash right away and get everything off of you. Seif 19, Hamekiz dam, if someone bloodlets, removing some blood, bloodletting, people do this for refuah reasons. It's healthy. So if a person does this, and of course Shulchan Aruch, by saying this specifically, it means only this case. Mehaketafayim, from the shoulders. Velo natal yadav, and he does not wash his hands. Mefached shiv'ayamim, he's going to be afraid for 7 days. Again, we don't understand why this is and what's going on, but this is what the rabbi says, Rav Yosef Karo. Now this means any other type of blood giving, like donating blood, is not in this category, or taking a blood test and blood came out. Since it's a chidush and it could be based on things we don't understand, you have to only go by the case given. So it's just bloodletting, which is for refuah reasons. That you have to wash. Hamegaleach velo natal yadav, if a person gets a haircut, like we said, and he does not wash his hands like he's supposed to, mefached gimel yamim, he's going to be afraid for 3 days. Now this doesn't mean shaving. Shaving is not a part of this. It's just the hair cutting, like we said. And even the hair cutter, the barber, should also wash his hands, because he was touching the head and the hair of the other guy. Hanotel tzipornav, if a person cuts his nails, velo natal, and again he doesn't wash his hands, yadav mefached yom echad, he'll be afraid for 1 day, ve'eno yodeya mima mefached, and he won't know what he is afraid of. And this could apply to all of it. All of the fears that we mentioned, it's just being afraid, but you don't know what you're afraid of. Obviously, there's something deep going on here. Again, the ruach ra'ah is around, and it can make a person be afraid. Kaf 20. Harochetz panav, if a person washes his face, velo negevam, and he doesn't wipe it, yafeh, well, panav mitbakeot, his face could have or get cracks on it. Peeled, chapped, whatever we want to think of it. Or ola bahen shechin, or it can get boils on it. Urefuato, and the way to remedy this, to heal it, lirchotz harbe, is to wash it b'mei silka, in beet juice. Beets in the juice can heal that if that happens. And that's just what's talked about in this seif. Now we have 21. Kaf Aleph 21. Tzarich lizaher, we have to be very careful. B'tfilah or b'achila, when we're praying or when we're eating. And you can check in these Simanim 92 and 164. Shelo liga b'shok v'yarech, we shouldn't touch the leg or the thigh. Ubmekomota mechusim ba'adam, or any place that's covered or usually covered by a person. Lefi sheyesh sham milmule ze'ah, there's traces of sweat in these areas. And it says milmule ze'ah perush zohama, it's a filth, something dirty, ke'en se'orim ketanim, like little barleys, meaning it's a thing, it's an actual thing, sweat. Also, we know, they say, when a person sweats, it's good for him because a lot of poisons and toxins are being released from his body. So look how the sweat might have these toxins in it. So it's true, it's a zohama. It's a dangerous thing it could be. So if we touch it, things that have that, we have to wash our hands. V'chen shelo lechakech berosho. A person, again, should not scratch his head, where it's, again, usually covered, like under the kippah. Otherwise, you're okay. To scratch parts that are usually revealed, you're okay, like the first part of your arm until you get to the elbow. That's usually revealed. It also has to do with the place you're in. It's relative to the place you're in, the time you're in. So again, all this has to be understood. But usually we know what's covered, not covered. Like we said, underarms and things like that is already covered, and of course there's sweat there. Aval mekomot hamegulim berosho, places that are uncovered, ubefanav umekomot hamegule shebezrotav en lakpid. Like we just said, these places that are usually revealed, we don't have to worry about washing. Now, if a person's, let's say, in the middle of prayer and he realized that he did touch a part of his head, like maybe the top of his head under his kippah is scratching, so what should he do now? So if he's in Shema or some place that he can get up, he should go to the water and wash his hands. If he's in the Amidah, he should not move, but he should just rub his hands against something, like the chair or the wall, whatever he's next to. That's how the rabbis recommend. But just to show you how serious it is, you have to worry about it. Now, in a meal we're washing to be pure in the beginning. We say al netilat yadayim. So if you're going to go make your hands be impure again in the middle of your meal by touching places that you're not supposed to, you may have to wash again. So the truth is, we do have to wash again, just like in the prayer, but you don't say al netilat yadayim again. Just that one time was enough. So we should be careful. Now, sometimes people you see, sometimes our kids, they're lounging around the couch and barefoot, and they're touching their feet. You know, they're reading, touching their feet. You see it all the time. And then they want to pop a candy bar in their mouth or something. You know, they don't realize they have to wash their hands before they go making berachot now. So you do have to be careful on places that we touch. We have to be conscious of this. And just like we said, under the kippah, people scratching their heads under the kippah all the time, even during the prayer. So you can't do that. You know, if you put your finger on top of the kippah and just scratch, your head will feel it. You should learn to do that and not go under the kippah. Seif 22, Im ein lo mayim, if a person doesn't have water, yikaneach yadav betzror o be'afar. You can then just clean, like wipe your hand with pebbles or with earth. Or bechol midei de menake, or anything that cleans, like a cloth, or like we said, you can rub it on the chair, on the wall if you have to, if there's nothing. V'barech, and make a beracha al nikiyut yadayim, on the cleaning of the hands, meaning nitila maybe implies water, although some argue that too. But here, the Shulchan Aruch is saying to say that beracha. Of course, it's not our minhag to do this. The Kaf HaChaim says, don't say any beracha if you're in this situation. It's either al nitilat yadayim for doing it the real way or not at all. The real way meaning with a cup and 3 times. V'yo'il l'tfilah, this will be good for tefillah. This if you're rubbing it against something. Aval lo l'havir ruach ra'ash alehen, but it won't take off the evil spirit that's on your hands. Which means you have to wash to pray. So you can pray now, but you still didn't get rid of the ruach ra'ah. So somewhere during the day or after tefillah or whatever, you're going to have to still find water and wash your hands if you want your hands not to have this spirit on it. Now, when it comes to mincha and arbit, of course, if there's water around, we're supposed to wash our hands for that too. Because it's tefillah doesn't just mean shachrit. Shachrit is where the rabbis made a takana to say a beracha of al nitilat yadayim. But while there's no takana to say beracha in mincha and arbit, we still want to wash our hands because we're getting ready for prayer and getting ready to serve our Creator. And that is important to do. Maybe there's something on your hands. Maybe there's sweat. Maybe you touched something you didn't know. one of those things that we're not allowed to touch. So that's why we really are supposed to do that. Kaf Gimel, Lo tekinu nitilat yadayim. The rabbis only established the washing of the hands, and of course with the blessing, Ela lekriyat shema v'letfilah. It was mainly for prayer, for kriyat shema and the tefillah, because we're preparing ourselves to speak to our Creator, like we said. Aval berachot shachrit, but other berachot of shachrit, like even earlier, and even much earlier, like berachot hashachar, yachol levarech kodem netilah. You can, by the letter of the law here, by Shulchan Aruch, you can technically say them without washing your hands. Ela imken, unless hu yashen al mitato arum, unless he was sleeping with no clothes on. Because then you must have touched parts of your body that you do have to wash for that. She'az asur le'azkir et Hashem. You're not allowed to mention God's name, the name Hashem, ad sheyinakeh otam, until you clean them. Now this means if a person had pajamas on that really covered, or he just slept with his clothes on, technically he can say the berachot in the morning before washing his hands. And this is because the hands are assumed to be clean. And you don't have to wash them unless you know they touched places that are unclean. So when you have no clothes on, you know you have to touch somewhere because your hands have to lie down somewhere. But if you had clothes on, it's not sure if you really touched any place. Now, what's the proof of it? Let's say you take an apple during the day. You don't have to wash your hands in order to say beracha of borei pri ha'etz. So the hands are already assumed to be cleaned unless known otherwise. Now, bread is different. Bread, there is a special law to wash our hands. Now, even though this is the letter of the law of Shulchan Aruch, the Zohar and the Kabbalah explain that it's still better, before you say any words of Torah or any berachot, to wash your hands before and get off any ruach ra'ah or any uncleanliness that's there. And with this, we end this Siman.